My name is Eric Mutema. I'm a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, and I'm also the Associate Medical Director for Wellbeing and Development in Blackpool Teaching Hospital.
Hello, I'm Trish Armstrong-Child. I'm the Chief Executive of Blackpool Teaching Hospitals. I've been the Chief Executive of this organisation for the last 10 months.
Trish, I think we'll start right from the beginning. Tell us what attracted you to the NHS in the first place.
I just got to school leaving age. I went off and did my A-levels, and then I really didn't know what to do. So all I knew was I liked people. So I applied for 3 jobs. I applied for the police, I applied for nursing, and I applied for the officers training course for the RENs. So the police told me to come back in 18 months' time when I had some life experience. The RENs said they would take me, but I was a bit worried because I couldn't swim. And nursing took me. And so I entered the nursing profession. And that's how I got into the NHS. I had a career as a nurse and still do. I still practice as a nurse. So that's how I came to be in the NHS.
In your day-to-day life, how do you and your colleagues, I guess one of them being me, generate great ideas for your organization or indeed for the system-wide?
I think for me, the important bits are accepting that we're always dealing in ambiguity. Nothing's ever certain. And the way to generate ideas is to recognise and accept and have the humility to know that you haven't got all the answers, and that's okay. So the way to generate the ideas is to engage. And I don't think we can ever do enough engaging. So even if we think we've got a good idea, before we do anything with it, we should go and test that out really. And I think that's really key. So I often talk about, and particularly in times of change now, it's not what we do, it's how we do it that we're going to be judged in the longer term. So generating ideas, you may start off with a good idea, it may become a fantastic idea if you share it far and wide. So I think that's probably the best way that I can describe about how as an organisation, and actually in the brave new world of ICSs, that we start to generate ideas. The more people that can get involved, coming towards a sort of different lens and a different life experience, the better the ideas start to sort of turn in from a sort of a rhetoric into a reality, really.
So how do you feel the NHS has supported you to grow and develop in your career to this point?
I never had a plan. I went in to be a nurse, but in terms of a career plan, I didn't have one. But I was committed. I worked hard all my professional life, but actually it's the support of others that have afforded me the opportunities in the NHS. And particularly in the very beginning of my career, people saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself. So I ended up going into roles that I wouldn't have even thought about. And when I talk to people who have got no experience at the NHS and they're thinking about a career. Often with the NHS, we just think about doctors, nurses, midwives, physios, but there's so many opportunities for different careers in the NHS. And I think it's a place full of opportunities. So with the right attitude, with the amount of commitment that you want to give, it affords you both sort of not just the practical experience, but also sort of the academic experience to really go on whatever pathway you choose to go on to. So I think, it doesn't matter what your background is, what your backstory is beforehand. There are opportunities that could be afforded to anyone that wants to think about a career in the NHS. And after 34 years, I would still encourage anybody to come into the NHS. And ironically, in the last couple of years, both my kids have gone into the NHS. One has taken a clinical path and has just finished his first years of nurse training. And one of my sons has gone into a sort of a project management, come from retail into that. And both in the last year are excelling and are so happy with the environments they've put themselves into, but also they can see the opportunities for themselves. So, it seems to be a bit of a family business for me now. I didn't plan it, but I would absolutely promote the NHS as a career opportunity.
Could you tell me about a mentor that has helped you through your careers and how they have supported you in various areas?
When I was a student nurse and I was looking for role models and mentors, somebody once said, there's no such thing as the perfect role model. What you'll do is you'll find different things from different people, which will then help you create what you want to be. And it's the same with mentors. So I've had really valued colleagues that have been mentors. I've had people outside of the NHS that have been mentors. And I don't think we should underestimate the role our families play in mentorship, you know? So we go home, quite rightly, we don't talk about the details of work, but just having that full support around you to sort of talk things through. So I have had the privilege, but my mentors have generally been work colleagues and peers.
You are a leader in whatever role you're in. So how do you continue developing in that?
Some of the greatest development that you can do is actually networking. That is one of the most important things, because having a network around you when you get into senior positions is really important. And I think the biggest single piece of development that I've ever done, and I've done lots of things, I've done degrees and they've all been helpful, but the most important development I've ever done was when I did one of the aspiring programs and spent some time exploring who I am. And that sounds a very silly thing because I've been living with myself for 52 years, so I think I should know who I am quite, now. But really taking that time about who you are, how that, what your values are, and then how that aligns to who you want to be as a leader. So you've got to know yourself inside out. That's really important. It's part of your resilience, really. So knowing yourself and spending a bit of time on that, what makes you tick, what presses your buttons, what do other people think about you? And I always talk to staff about, it's really important to understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of you. So being curious about that. So I think that's probably the biggest bit of leadership development I've ever done that's been helpful. But right now it's around the coaching and resilience for me.
What talents do you use in your current role?
Leading through people. That is so this is an extremely large organisation. We serve the most deprived population in the country. We have 8,500 staff. I can't do it. Not one person's going to solve all this. And the important thing for me is how I use my skills to work through the people to get the outcomes that we want. The temptation sometimes to be directive or roll your sleeves up and get it done yourself, it is tempted at times, but that's not my job to do. How do I use my influence and skills in the wider system to not only get the right outcome for the local population of Blackpool, File and Ware, but also the right outcomes for the whole system? So I think they're probably the key things that I have to do.
What do you find most rewarding in your current role?
The most important thing remains to me is about the people. So I think it's important for me to stay close to the staff. I think it's important for chief executives to stay close to the people that we serve as well. And that's the bit that I worried about being a chief executive, that it would completely take me away from that side of the organisation, that I wouldn't have that contact. But I still do have contact with staff, and I still have contact with patients and relatives, either through positive or negative experiences, but it is the bit of the job that satisfies me the most.
So Trish, what would you advise any of the younger people who are aspiring towards NHS senior leadership roles?
This all comes back to you and having a bit of confidence in yourself. Honestly, Eric, I've said this. If someone had told me I was going to be a chief executive, I used to go into meetings and look at a room full of people and automatically think they look smarter than me, they look cleverer than me. So it's not about who's the smartest. It's about, if you think that you've got a skill to offer, then what have you got to lose? I always describe myself as I'm just a kid from a council estate. I used to say I just got lucky. Well, I did get lucky, but I had to put the time and the effort in. But that is what the NHS is about. It is the art of the possible, and people like me can get into positions like a chief exec post, if they're willing to put the effort, the time, and put faith in the people around us. But I would definitely say laugh at yourself a little bit more than we possibly do. I think that's probably one of the things we don't do enough of.
What is the one risk that you've taken, one important risk you've taken, and why?
Sometimes doing the right thing is not always the easiest thing, but that's not a reason not to do it. So there's been times in my career in various roles where I've not gone out on a limb, but I've stuck to what I think is the right thing. And I've always been consistent in why I do that. I do it because I think it's the right thing for the people we serve. And potentially maybe that could have been risky. Number one, because it's not followed often the popular view. Or number two, if it all went wrong, I'm the only one standing there. But it goes back to what I said about failures. It's how you view failure. So we're all going to make mistakes, and hindsight is a great thing. But if you make a decision or you do something and then it turns out to be incorrect for whatever the reason, obviously the stakes can be high, can't they? But if you can demonstrate that you did it for the right reasons, with the greatest integrity, and did it in a considered way with the information you had to hand, then you've done your best, and your best is good enough, and that's all you can do at the time. So I don't necessarily would say it's a risk, and quite often I say to people there's a difference between being brave and being stupid. Yeah, and what I mean by that is if you're going to be brave and step up to it, make sure that you've considered everything before you make that decision. So it's about the intended and unintended consequences of everything that you do, and I think that's really important. And when you've done that, it actually makes you more brave.
It's never been more important than now, but how do you maintain your health and your well-being at work?
I know I'm at my best when I'm feeling my best, so I think that's just part and parcel of my job and what I do. So regular breaks, keeping perspective on things. And I talked earlier about my real sense of wanting to keep connected with the staff and patients, and I think that really helps your health and well-being, because it helps you keep perspective on what's important, what's really, really important. And I think that's absolutely key. So I feel certainly in this job now as a chief executive, the culture, the tone of this organisation is down to me in terms of setting that. And I think that's really important, about letting everybody know that they're important. Their own health and well-being is important, but that's got to start with me. I've got to role model some of that, and I think that's really, really key. And the other thing I've learnt over the years as well around my own health and well-being is it's okay to be vulnerable. It doesn't mean it's you're not coping. It doesn't mean it's a weakness.
Well, just like anything important that needs to be done, there are always challenges. What challenges and barriers have you come across, and how have you overcome them along the journey to get here?
The challenges for me always comes back to people. How do you get people to come with you? I often talk about you need to get people on board, and you need to get people walking by your side. And one of the greatest compliments I was ever given was by one of my previous medical directors. When he retired, he said to me, I always felt that I worked with you, not for you. And I think that was the biggest compliment I've ever had, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I think that's always the challenge. How do you get people to work with you, don't feel they're working for you, and definitely not feel like they're working against you? That's really important. So yeah, and I often talk, again, when people ask me about leadership and the challenges. My part of my job, because I'm the accountable officer, is I'm held to account, and I have to hold other people to account, and I make no apologies for that. So how you hold people to account and hold them at the same time, hold them, support them, guide them, is a tricky one. I don't always get it right. I'd like to think I've got slightly better with age with that, but that is a real challenge, I think, the holding account and holding and support at the same time. So I think that's probably the biggest leadership challenge for us all now.
One more for you, Trish. What would you advise your colleagues on how they can progress in their senior roles now?
The only way you can be as good as you possibly can is to get as much experience as you can under your belt, because when you come into these senior positions, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got all the answers. This is all experiential. There's not a day that, you know, even after 34 years, that something comes to my desk that I've not come across before, because the reason they're coming to your desk is because everybody else has tried and failed to solve it. So you've got to remember that. So when something lands on your desk, which is inevitably tricky, complex, and you've not come across it before, the only thing you've got to draw on is your previous experiences of good and bad to come to a collective decision. So taking your time in your career, being exposed to as many things as you can, I think is key. I think it helps you. I think it makes you more confident. It makes you more comfortable to say when it comes to your desk, oh, I've never come across this before. So, you know, they're the kind of things that I would advise people really just to, you know, if you've got a plan, that's great. But when you start to put numbers on it, you know, I want to do this within the next 2 years. You can't say that because it's experiential. So, you know, the number doesn't matter. It's about, you know, what you learn on the way. I think that's the most important thing. And that helps you be, you know, the best possible version of whatever the title you're using at the time is.
Well, thank you so much, Trish, for taking the time. And as always, there's lots of nuggets of wisdom there to pick up. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I don't know whether it's nuggets of wisdom. It's just my experience, and I'm always keen to share that really. And it's not because it's I can say I know all the answers, but it is important for people. But if nothing else, if even one person listens to this, I hope I probably leave somebody feeling that actually anything is possible. There's enough people in the NHS that will support you to do it, really. So as I always say, if I can become chief executive, anybody can, if you want to.